Join us as Trevor Fry shares his inspiring journey from tinkering with motorcycles to leading tech teams. Discover how his passion for problem solving and leadership has shaped his career in software engineering and learn about his experience with Go Fractional.
Fell into software engineering about 15 years ago. And I've been doing that since then. I always tinkered with various different things throughout my life, computers, lots of hands-on things. I love problem solving. Which about 10 years ago, 9 to 10 years ago, I was brought in to help lead a whole new business unit for an existing company I'd worked for in the past. So they brought me back to say, hey, we want you to lead the engineering side of the house, which was an awesome experience. So I jumped into that and really focused on the leadership side of the house. I really focus on the technical side and really being able to work with engineers while also leading the technical needs of that company. And what I mean by that, it's architecture, make the right decisions technology wise. I'm choosing the right tools. Having worked with many different size companies from small to large, the biggest thing I find is kind of a lack of goals and a lack of vision. And that goes across the board. It's not just for technology goals or technology vision. I find that there might be a vision that's either not communicated out well or that there really is a vision that's not very actionable. So the biggest thing I really focus on is outlining what your vision needs to be and what you want to do, and then breaking that down into various milestones, different steps. And that way, as you implement things and as you make decisions, whether it be processes, tools, people, you can focus on how that aligns to those goals. But there's so many other nuances to a company and a business that are necessary there. So really having that vision of what you want to get to in mind. What's your 1 year plan? What's your 5 year plan? So having a roadmap, and really being flexible with that too. I really focus on agile methodologies. Really, what I mean by that are more iterative improvements, right? Of like, hey, we want to do X. Well, let's try it and see how that worked. Do we like how we did that? Yes or no. Maybe we liked it, but it could be improved. So we're going to tweak it, that kind of stuff. So being very flexible with either your culture, your processes, but even your tools, being able to say, yeah, we tried this and we even spent 3 months on it, but we have to understand that we're doing kind of like the sunk cost fallacy here and we need to ditch it. It's better to move to a different direction, that kind of stuff. Um, I mean, again, the first step is actually even having those goals. I say that kind of repetitive because I see it so many times where they just don't even know where they want to go, or it's like, hey, we just want to build this app. And then I kind of have to ask, well, why? First off, what's the goal of the app? Where do you want to go with that app? What do you want this app to do? So first off, again, it's just really nailing down those goals. Where do we need to go? And revisiting them regularly too, but that's more down the line. And then I think the next piece is really, again, getting those foundational pieces in place. Who are we hiring? What do we need? What are the roles that we have already? Where are the gaps? It's really just analyzing, where the gaps are, trying to see what we got, and then working through it from there. I think oftentimes what I find when I step into places too, especially places that already have a technology team, a lot of us technologists love fancy new tools because it's going to solve all our problems. Well, it never does. I mean, one thing I constantly have to relearn is there is no magical tool that's going to do it all for you. Technology has progressed so far because we use new tools and new technologies. So it's not like we want to be in the dark ages and working on an old green screen, but you really got to ask yourself again, what do we get out of this? Is this really worth the time and investment? Or maybe there's a more MVP kind of approach we can take to, let's just get this done. With fractional engagements, you do have a limited time. What I really try to focus on or my personal focus is more the team. So I really try to focus on making places that are enjoyable to work. You don't have to be a stick in the mud and ultra professional at work all day, but you also don't want to be to the point of like you're being offensive because hey, you're missing some level of professionalism, whatever it is. So I really try to focus on building a culture that can find people to continue to add to that culture. Focusing on diversity, bringing in people from all walks of life. Not the thing I focus on is hiring on culture first, and then you can follow on the tech side after that. So culture first, then follow on the tech because you can teach the tech. My other belief in management is that if you have to do all the work, you're probably not hiring the right team, or you need to question yourself as to why you feel like you have to do all the work, or why you feel like you have to micromanage, even if you're not doing the work. If you can't trust your team, you got the wrong team, right? They should be autonomous. You want them to be able to run with your vision. It's easier said than done. So I guess if I had to sum up, it's autonomy. For me, it's servant leadership. And you really can't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk on a lot of this stuff. But for any leader in any company, I mean, I think it's very important to have empathy, right? You got to listen to your team. It's so easy to come in and, especially from an outside perspective, the higher you get in leadership, or the more up in the chain, whatever you want to call it, the higher you are, the kind of more removed you are from those day-to-day problems that your teams are solving. So you really want to be empathetic to what they're saying, what the issues are. So really being empathetic, putting yourself in their shoes and listening to the problems, listening to them to understand what the issues are. And my favorite thing is actually getting the solutions from them. It's easy to complain, and at all levels of any company, people love to complain, right? It's a little more challenging to actually get a solution from them. They're going to come back more refreshed. They're going to be so bought in and so appreciative of giving them that space, and they're going to come in and do a better job when they're able to come back, sort of thing. So give them the space. Focusing on butts and seats isn't going to get you anywhere. Other pieces, I think it's important to have someone that can translate the tech side to business. So being able to adapt, being able to pivot, maybe your entire org or maybe just a team or whatever it is, like being able to adapt to the changes of the industry so that you actually can keep up. Otherwise, you'll fall behind. And being consistent. For me personally, it was kind of like ripping off a band-aid. I really was like jumped into the deep end, and I haven't regretted it, to be honest. The reason why, I mean, I just felt like I could help a lot more. I decided, having done this for so long, I mean, just giving a little bit of my story here, having been in leadership and been in the tech side for so long, truth be told, I was a little burnt. Definitely getting a little exhausted there, and I wanted to take a break. So my wife and I've got 3 young kids at home, and I really wanted to spend more time with them. So we decided, like, you know what? Let's jump in and figure out how this is going to work. And so I left my at the time full-time employment role. I took a little bit of a break, took a few months off just to like really reset, get my head straight, and then started jumping into this, realizing, having talked to just friends and people in the area and other companies and just networking, how much this is needed and how much I feel like I could help there. And it's been really enjoyable. After that break, or during that break, really was like, oh, okay, let's start doing this. So if someone needs help, so let's jump into them, and started diving in there, and then slowly got more, and then found Go Fractional. Actually, the gas was pressed a little more. I was able to find more and more. I found Go Fractional just by browsing the internet, doing a lot of internet searching, then really finding and landing on Go Fractional, because it really felt more catered. I really appreciated it. It wasn't just like, hey, we throw you on a job board, because that's what a lot of them are. And that doesn't really work. You really want to find the right fit for your own expertise, your own skill sets, and also for theirs. So once I looked into Go Fractional and kind of realized how catered the leads are and the results are and how personal they are, it's been great. It's so easy to just be like, throw your resume out there and hope for the best. And Go Fractional's done a great job of matching me to the right people. I've had an honestly awesome experience with everyone I've talked to. I mean, you go on there, you build your profile. The tool itself it's simple enough to use, but detailed enough where you can really say, like, this is what I do, this is what I focus on. Here's my experience, that kind of stuff. That's all easy. And then my lead is Brian. He's awesome at matching me up with the right people. He understands my skill sets, he understands my experience, but also what I'm looking for. For me, it's meeting with leadership first. They're the ones outreaching, saying, hey, we need help here. So they've identified some issue. You don't typically just hire someone for fun, as great as that would be. You're trying to get them to solve some sort of problem. Let's do a 30-day plan and reconvene and see where we need to go from there. Yeah, I do. I think it's important to hit the ground running. So for me, it's kind of having that line in the sand to say, I need to get to this point. So at the end of 30 days, what do I need to have done? Oftentimes what I'll do is even break it down to like a 2-week plan. Like, first 2 weeks, we're just going to meet. I'm going to set up meetings. We're going to have time to meet and just get all the problems fleshed out in different ways. There's different types of meetings you can do, meeting with different people, what have you. And then by 30 days, at least for me, I like to have at least a good roadmap in place. Like, all right, I've identified what a lot of the issues are, at least some core issues we can tackle. There's an infinite number of them, so you can't tackle them all. The biggest impact, we'll say the biggest ROI on the problems we can solve. And then I want to have a roadmap in place on how we're going to solve those, at least by the end of 30 days. And then by 60 days, we should be executing on those. We should have actually probably made some good headway on them, depending on what needs to happen, that plan can drag out. Executing the first 60 days, 90 days is usually a bit more execution, but I think by then you could at least have a goal to hit. And that's not just, I started doing the thing. It's, we have now implemented it. And now the next step, now we're going to move on to the next stage. I mean, communication's key for everything. And honestly, a lot of the issues are communication based. So many issues at any company, not just the tech side, but anywhere in the company are communication based. Even talking face to face or virtually, we may feel like we're speaking the same language. We may feel like we're on the right page. And then the next thing you know, the expectations from person A and person B are very different. So I think the biggest thing to build trust fast is communicate, 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 and write it down. Yeah, fractional is interesting because oftentimes, even just in my circles I'll talk to in person, you say fractional, whatever, fractional CTO, and you kind of see their eyes gloss over, and they don't really know what that means. And it's easy enough to break it down, right? If like you take a role, we'll say in my case, a CTO, Chief Technology Officer. What do they typically do? Well, they're typically focusing on the technology side of the house and all the business decisions related to that. Well, take a fraction of that, right? We'll take a piece of that, and there's a million different things we all do in our positions. So it's understanding what that is, but understanding that it's not a temporary thing, right? It's not just someone that's going to come in and code on your project for a little bit. This is someone that's going to come in and again build. They should be building the foundations for the next stage, whatever that may be. I mean, that's my personal focus. Is again, I try to work myself out of a job so that the companies can prosper and continue from there. So I think a lot of people come in thinking either hiring or exploring fractional workers as kind of like a temporary band-aid. It's like, oh, we just need this person to like do this one thing, and then they'll leave. The contract will be done. That's not it. You're taking this expertise and this leadership from, or this leadership expertise for these people, and being able to apply them to a small subset of what they need to do. For me, anyways, I'm probably not going to be meeting with your board of directors regularly. I'm probably not going to be going to investor calls and things like that. But that is part of a typical CTO, depending on the company. But let me focus on what I love to do is more the ops and strategy side. Let me get your pieces in place so that you can focus on those other pieces yourself. Let me take that off your plate, or let me actually build the plate out better to help you there. It's a piece of what a typical role would be. And I think people have a hard time understanding that. All the hats they wear as a leader. Yeah, CTO, it's like, oh, you're a good dev. No, there's so much that goes into being a CTO. Good question. I think a lot of the concepts carry over. You're taking a subset of your expertise. I've got experience in all these different things of being a leader, whatever it may be. You're taking a small subset. So you could still apply those same practices, but a lot of that expertise transfers over, except it's more accelerated. So you're coming in and you have to learn what that is really quick. And it's super easy to say like, well, this is what I did in the past and this is what you need to do too. It's so easy just because you kind of have that pressure to get things going quickly, but that's not what you should do. You should come in and say, where are you at? What do you need? Where do you want this company to go? Guide the leadership and whoever else to their vision, whatever that may be. And then solving those problems individually. So I would say it's changed a bit. I mean, for me, again, it's allowed me to focus on the pieces of the work that I do enjoy and kind of shove aside the pieces that I don't enjoy so much. But I've also had to really ground myself and realize like, yeah, there's a history here with this company, good, bad, or indifferent. And that culture has already been in place. And we have to build upon that culture, build upon what's already there. You're probably not going to be establishing these things from the ground up. You need to add on and work with the established practices. It's hard. That's honestly one of the bigger challenges, I think. It's understanding what problems need to be solved, working with other experience of the company. They have been in this company for a long time. A lot of times they're founders of the company, and helping them understand like, well, what does need to be done? What are the goals? I don't necessarily want to always just rip the Band-Aid off and say we're doing it this way. It's more being strategic, like, great, how does this actually move the needle to where we need to go? How does this actually help us, drive across the country that is our roadmap of the business? How does it actually get us to the next point? Well, it can be a lot of different things depending on the company. If it's a business that doesn't focus on tech, they don't have an app, a website, their business doesn't focus on that. Maybe it's, I'll use an example for that. Maybe it's a freight company. Tech isn't their wheelhouse. They ship product. They work on getting a package from A to B. So they don't have tech. But what I would explain there is there's always a technical piece to it, especially in this day and age. Even before computers and internet, there was always a technical piece, right? Now with computers and internet and everything else, obviously it's a lot more complicated, a lot more tools out there, and a lot more necessary to be on top of these things. You can't just buy one tool and expect it to last for 50 years. You've got to be moving with the industry that moves at the speed of light. So how I would explain what a chief technology officer does is they manage the entire technical side of the house. So whether that be finding the right tools, building the right teams, pulling in the right resources, being able to explain what the technology side of the house is even doing, being able to say to other leaders and non-technical people, we are using X because of this reason, or we need to buy this tool or build this tool or whatever it is because it's going to help us align to business goals. For me, I mean, the biggest thing in business is being flexible. I think there's too many times, especially on the technology side, where people are very rigid. We have to do it this way. This is how it works. This is how engineering works. It's very binary. It doesn't have to work that way, actually. You need to be flexible. You need to be able to adapt to change, and you need to find that person, hopefully me, find that person that can really help guide you along that path and help you say, like, we're going to try this. It worked. It didn't work, whatever. But we know that that's kind of step one in this infinite step process to get us moving forward and getting those foundations in place so that we can actually act and function as a business.